As I've mentioned in previous video, I'm a communication professional with more than 25 years of experience of trying to communicate with people, from public affairs to public relations to internal communication to executive communication. And one of the things which you learn doing that there are different ways you have to speak to different audiences. And specifically, if you have a male-centered audience, you're going to want to speak to it differently than you want to speak to a female-centered audience. You know, I think that from an evolutionary perspective, it's most likely evolved from the kind of hunter-gatherer tribe roles that men and women used to have. And that accounts for the differences in communicating between men and women. When men went to go hunt together, they practiced coordinated actions for a cooperative goal. So bringing down that prey, it was very important that you had very critical information in a timely, factual manner. In fact, the earliest cave drawings were essentially recordings of how a successful hunt was done and instructions on how to do it. So early man's communication, by necessity, had to be content-driven disclosures, or the tribe wouldn't eat. During the similar times, women's communication would have been for gathering efforts and for childcare. So it would stand to reason that their communication would be more collective roles, and it'd be more evolved and be more intuitive and context-oriented rather than the objective-oriented things that you saw with men. A common thing, if you look at the difference between men and women, the way they act in society, there's a common presupposition for women to have a more collective distribution of resources than men do. Which brings us to where we are today in society, right? When a man attempts to communicate like a woman, women associate him with being feminine, i.e. he talks and thinks like a woman, he's not thinking objectively based, making concessions of his manliness to better identify with a woman or being better identified as a feminine nature. Well, look, that's a role that some guys play. Like, they try to pretend like they're the friend and try to be the nice guy to relate to women. And to some degree, it used to work in high school. You hear guys talking about women's rights and how would a guy ever do this, to when he talks about abortion and all this stuff. But it was obvious to any of the guys who were sitting on the outside that this was just their way to try to get in with the women. And sometimes those nice guys, they would get in and the women would feel betrayed because, oh, he wants to have sex with me. And you can probably guess where I'm going with this, right? Like, society has put demands on men to feminize, to bend to the social feminine order, to associate themselves with the post-sexual revolution, where men become socialized and really forced to act, to express themselves in a way that would most likely be increasingly the way that I would expect a woman to express herself. This is all part of the effort to take the really feminine imperatives and train men to communicate as women do. And it takes a form in a bunch of different ways. It is men learning to get in touch with their feelings, or sensitivity training, or even this emotional intelligence training. But it's essentially a social effort to force men to rewire their brains to be able to accommodate the feminist imperative in society and communicate the way that women want you to communicate. I remember back in the day, it used to be get in touch with your feminine side, get in touch with your feminine side. And now we got these alpha women and boss women, and we're supposed to say all of that is good when we're telling men to act the opposite of that. But it's not really about getting in touch with your feminine side. It's to kill that masculine, competitive, must do it thing that's just normal for us guys. And that's part of what we're trying to bring into communication. We want us to communicate in a way that aligns more with the feminine model of moving us more toward cooperation and really a social society that gets rid of this desire to reach for the pinnacle of yourself compared to other people. This thing that brought a lot of us guys into, right? As a result, it was much the same as like that faux nice guy that I described earlier. There's a very subtle distinction in the way that a feminine mind perceives when a man communicates as a woman would. They look at us and say, I thought he was like a guy to trust and respect, but why would a real man try to accommodate and speak this way. This is a guy who I will just put down as second in my mind. And I think that is true that a lot of women don't admit, that they lose a little bit of respect for guys when they try to accommodate and they don't fight back. This is an incongruity. You think about, hey, we want this more feminine orientated speech, but when we see it coming from a man, we really don't like it. And it comes from a perspective in dealing with women and planning your lives and planning y'all future together. The sincerity they hope to convey to a woman about their intentions is incongruent with how women might tell you how a man should act and how a man should communicate in his style of work. But look, men are men because we communicate like men. We're concerned about things that men are concerned, and we attack them and achieve them the way that men do. A lot of times you'll see women who are successful, who are go-getters, and they take the alpha male role of being objective-oriented, being attack-oriented, and then pushing back. And then they try and encourage men to be submissive and to go for this more social-oriented goal because it's what the woman wants. And quite often, in relationships and to be with a woman, we'll find men kind of acquiescing to communicating like women and thinking like women so that we can improve our chances of being with that woman. At some point in a man's life, you're gonna get to this point where you say, hey, I'm just tired of speaking like this. I'm gonna revert to my native masculine tongue, feminine imperative be damned. It's the old couples where you see the guy is giving his wife the business. And as I heard one comedian say, dad is like, hey, you gotta be done having sex before you can do it. Or you can be a man like Andrew Tate and says, I won't enter into a relationship unless I'm able to establish this dominance. Or you can be like a man like me who got married way too young and realize, hey, you know what? Either I'm gonna drive the ship or I'm gonna jump off the ship. And so you take control of the ship that is the life of your family and you start steering it. It's gonna have to be one or the other, or you will die miserable, and most men just get tired of it well before it happens. But men, when you drop the pretense of catering to the feminine, this is when you set yourself apart as being a truly masculine agent. You wanna have it when you're still young and sexy, but believe me, it is never too late because that is what is attractive to women. And like I think I mentioned this before in one of my other videos, of a 61-year-old man who married a 27-year-old woman because he just got it. He was old, he was tired of playing around. He was like, look, I've lived long enough, I know how to do this. I'm gonna find someone who's gonna come along. And he found a 27-year-old woman to come along with him and have children with him because she was like, hey, he's old. He ain't the best looking guy, but he is going to lead her in a life that's going to be better for her. And that's what all of us have in us. But believe me, men, your life is going to be better when you unapologetically be masculine and have that as the mark of who you are. Yeah, maybe it'll be alpha. Maybe, your wife thought you were that beta provider, that guy who she could direct around and who will never leave her. And when you start to assert yourself, maybe she don't like it. But when you decide to stop bending the knee to the feminine imperative and better identify yourself with masculinity, that strength and that intangible will be seen by women, and maybe not the woman you're with. Maybe she'll come on board, but maybe she won't. But you'll start living the best you can be in your life, and you'll build a life and a family that'll be better. But I'm truly of the belief that a woman wants to be with the best man she feels like she can get. And if you're starting to say, hey, I'm going to be the masculine leader, and you start being unapologetically a male, you start talking in the terms of facts and accomplishments and merits, and that being why you lead, that being why she should follow, that being where you're taking the family and how you're going to accomplish it, big, medium, or small in the grand scheme of things, but true for you and the life you're in, that is when you'll start seeing women will fall in line with your purpose. See, I know that this is one of those things that is just taught differently in society. You're supposed to be 50-50, you're supposed to be, let's do it together, let me hear your opinion. And I've just stopped doing that a long time ago. I stopped doing it because I know that I have a vision for myself, my family, and that's the best way to take us. And we're gonna all go along with it. And our life has been better because of it. Men, start communicating like the way men communicate. Start being assertive in your vision for yourself and your family, and bring your family along with you, and don't hear anything else. It is a very tough thing because yes, we're supposed to listen to the wise counsel of our wives, or you shouldn't have married someone who you don't believe has wise counsel. But all the authority resides in you as the man, and you have to, if you haven't already, establish that authority, and you need to not ever relinquish it if you've been relinquishing it. Thank you for stopping by the Legacy Gentleman channel. Today we were talking about how you should be communicating as a man. As a man, you should be clear in communicating your vision for what you want to accomplish for yourself and where you want to have your family 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. There's a lot of resources that can help you get there, but first and foremostly, you need to understand that as a man, you should be communicating with purpose and vision. And that is what we as men should be doing and is expected of us as men. I want to thank you very much for stopping by the Legacy Gentleman channel. If you found something in this video useful or helpful, please like it. If you want to see more videos that actually are going to help you to become the traditional man, the man with values, skills, and works that will be admired and desired 1,000 years from now, please subscribe to this channel. And till next time, go be legendary.